So anyway, so we would have donation events during the week when we brought a team of gringos down here. And I met my wife, Lilia, and I met Liviercita. I met Livier. Her name is Livier.
That's why the name of the foundation.
That's where the name comes from, Livier. It's a French name. The diminutive in Spanish is Ita or Cita, and so that's why she became Livier Cita. We always called her that. She was a premature baby. She was a twin, born with many, many medical complications, including hydrocephalia, cerebral palsy. She was nearly blind. She lived with us until she passed when she was about 8 years old. Always ate out of a bottle. She was like an infant of 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
She never spoke, but she could communicate with her, like a baby communicates, with a loud cry or change of facial expressions.
Yeah.
And anyway, so Lilia, my wife, brought Liviercita to receive her first wheelchair at this event.
Okay.
And then I wasn't in contact with either one of them for a number of years, continued on the work in Seattle collecting wheelchairs and coming down 3 or 4 times a year. And then a number of years later, Livier, just like every other kid, she grew out of her wheelchair.
Okay.
Do your kids grow out of their shoes and pants and shirts and everything?
No, I don't think so.
Your kids grow out, yeah. I've seen them grow. And Livier grew too, so she needed a new wheelchair. And she went back to the same association. She received a second wheelchair.
Okay.
Lilia, my wife, wrote a beautiful thank you note on the Facebook page of the association, which I read. And I was looking at the thank you note, and I saw a very highly educated, intelligent, diplomatic, smart lady. Many of the people that we were giving wheelchairs to, if you live in a house with no floor and no roof and stuff, probably have very little education, or you certainly didn't have very many opportunities in your life.
Yeah.
Well, this lady had opportunities, and I met her after the second donation, when it was the 10-year anniversary of Push International.
Was it love at first sight?
No, it wasn't, but she surely impressed me she impressed me, her intelligence impressed me, and still does. So we continued to talk. She was, we invited her to, one of the things we always did with teams of gringos is we would try to, I mentioned we took them to hospitals and clinics. We would try to give them the opportunity to talk with somebody who was actually living with a disabled person here in Mexico. Because many of these graduate students, they have many questions. They're going into health, into the health industry. What is it like to live in Mexico with a disabled person? What is access like, accessibility? What are medical services like? What are the challenges from day to day to live with a person with disabilities? And there are many, no matter where you live. But if you live in the communities that we were serving with this organization, it's 10 times harder. And so we invited Lilia to come and talk to the group for a question and answer period, which she did.
Did you help her translating all the situation?
Yeah, I did the translation for her at that time.
Okay. Where do you learn the Spanish, by the way?
Well, I learned a little bit of Spanish in 2 years in high school, but I'd never used it. Okay. And I went to Italy when I was in college, and I tried to transfer my Spanish into Italian. I failed miserably when I first arrived, but when I left at the end of my year, the last thing I did was I worked as a translator in Italian. And I loved the Romance languages. Yeah. So then many years later, when I got involved with the organization, I had to relearn my Spanish, which was horrible.
You relearned over here, right?
I relearned here in Mazatlan.
Okay.
And so my vocabulary started out to be completely limited to where does it hurt, which hip is fractured, what ankle is broken.
The basic things you needed to know to live here, right?
Yeah. Well, no, the basic things I needed to bring a person a wheelchair, to give a person a wheelchair, to select the right wheelchair for them. But that was my limit, was very limited. So when I came back down at the 10-year anniversary, my wife at that time was, among other things, she was a radio broadcaster. and she had a radio show, and she invited me to come
Okay.
and kind of do what we're doing here today
What's it
on
called,
her
the-
radio show.
What was called the radio show?
It was good. The program was called Hablemos Claro, and it was
Oh.
yeah, and it was on the Eco
The
channel.
high school, right?
Yep, based out of the high school.
Mhm.
And so
You were starting to talking with her, to departing some time with her and stuff, right? Over there.
yeah, so I invited her after going to the interview. Um, after going to the interview, I really learned how smart she was and what kind of life experience she had had.
Mhm.
And so I invited her to come and be the person that spoke to the Gringo group
Okay.
with the team that happened to be down there at that time. And at the end of every week, we would ask the team, what did we do well? What can we do better for the next team?
Yeah.
Everybody on that team said the best part of the week was the time they had asking Lilia
Really.
questions
Because
about what
they
it was like.
They were learning too much with her.
They were learning so much, and she
Yeah.
was so honest and
Yeah.
straightforward
Yeah.
about it. They learned so
Talking
much.
about the real reality down here, no?
What it was like to have Liviera at home every day,
Okay.
the challenges of life.